Anders geht's.
Hello, you lovely ladies. I think something went very squirrely on Facebook because there was a very strange time for this on Facebook suddenly, and I'm afraid to say I don't know how many people will be coming, and I feel a little bit daft now. I also have a real problem trying to live stream it on the Cerridwen group. I don't know. I think the gods of technology are against me today, but I don't actually care. You know what I'm like. I'll just carry on. So it's lovely to see you. Lovely to see you both. And both of people are from the US. I think Debs and Donna, you know each other already, or you have certainly been in meetings. No, you've certainly been in meetings with together because I think you were at the last taster session. Hang on, every
Yeah,
time
let
I
me
do,
see. Get this. There,
let's
that's
see.
better. Now I can see. I couldn't see.
All right, okay. So it's interesting. I did the what you call it. I'm going to pin this again. Sorry, Donna. All I could see is your face, and I don't think that you want that on the thing. Um, so what's really interesting is that I've spoken to several people from the US in this last couple of days, and yeah, a lot of people are really struggling and really not sure what's going to go on. And to be quite honest, today's topic is the seer. And of course, people always ask me, what is going to happen? What is the future? How are we going to get through this? And the first thing I always say to people is just breathe. Just breathe. Sit
Mhm.
and see what is actually happening. Sit and see what actually is happening for you right now. I know all of us are suffering from prices going up, and I will say that in our household, we've started buying less because we always buy too much. We throw loads of food away, and we do waste a lot of food. And so we just stopped buying more than we need. And I think if everybody does that, it would be a really good idea. So I'm
Mhm.
going to let people in as we go along. Um, so tonight I would like to talk about what really is seership. What is the term actually mean? Where does it come from? How long have we been around? Um, and I think several of you already know that I feel very strongly that we all have psychic abilities. All human beings have psychic abilities. But when we are very young and people get very scared, doing that again, people get very scared, they do worry about what's going to happen to young people who see things that others don't see. And I'm sure that there are people here that will be aware and familiar with the stories that when they see something or they have a friend nobody else can see or there is something going on, um, that they're often told to shut up, to not
Mhm.
talk about it, to not allow anyone to hear them speak about fairies, about friends, about spirits. You know, I remember my grandson when he was born, he used to look up to a particular place in, no matter how you put him in the cot, he used to look at a particular place.
Uh-oh.
And we have a spirit in this house, and a lady, an Italian lady, and he would obviously she would go and sit with him or look after him, and she's done the same with the twins, and the twins are quite happy with her being there. Nobody feels that she is a malevolent influence, and people have asked me, why don't you get rid of her? This is your house now, why don't you get rid of her? And I'm like, but she lived here for 40 years, she died in this house, this is her home. Why would I get rid of a spirit that is perfectly happy, perfectly, apart from when she sees me cooking, I can feel her breath on my neck going. She looks over my shoulders into the pots and she's like, I literally hear her. So seership has been with us since the beginning of humanity. And interestingly enough, it has usually been the female of the species who has been the seer, the oracle, the embodiment of the goddess. And that goes all the way through human history. And why would that be? I have a theory, but my theories are not necessarily scientifically proven. I believe that because we are the life givers, and very often when we were hunter-gatherers, that we were with our babies on our shoulders, we would be going through places in our direct surroundings and picking fruit and picking and bringing the harvest in, the gathering in, and very often the men would be away at the hunt, and so um, they would not be there to protect us. So we had to really sharpen our senses, intuit into our surrounding area, and feel whether there was any danger, whether that was from animals or that was from other people. It was something that we have sharpened throughout our history here on this planet. Now, some people may think that because I'm a feminist and I like women better than men, I'm joking, um, that I'm biased. But ask yourself, how many people do you know who are readers, who are priestesses, who are seers, who are mediums, who are trance mediums? Most of them are women. Yes, there are some men around, and they usually make themselves very loud and proud, but the majority in the background are the women. And like I said, when we are children, very often we are taken aside and we are told not to say anything. And I remember my parents used to give these amazing cocktail parties when I was a young woman, one young child. Must have been 1969 or something like that. And I was about 4 years of age. And I came into the room, we were sort of all prepped up, and we would be introduced to the people. These are my children, and you'd have to bow, or you'd have to shake your hands, or you'd have to curtsy, and then you were parted off again. And apparently, at one point, I met somebody, and I said, "But this is not the man you've kissed last time." And I got into a lot of trouble because she was having an affair with somebody else in the room, and I pointed at him, and there was uproar, and the party was broken up very quickly because they started falling out. So my mother, obviously, not very happy with me, did smack my bum something chronic. And if it hadn't been for my parents, who were seers themselves, or they were from that tribe of seers, I think they would have taken me to a asylum or something like that. Those were still around when I was young, and they would have sent me to a psychiatrist or something, because seeing things that nobody else can see is not a safe thing to talk about these days.
Mhm.
So and I'm sure that lots of you have your own version of that. I'm sure, women have this intuition. Very often the telephone rings and you know who's going to be on the other end before you picked up the receiver. You have a sister or a brother, and you have a feeling there's something wrong. You get goosebumps. I always hear this, "Oh my gosh, I've got goosebumps," people say to me when we're in the temple, when they see something. And maybe you can feel that there's something not quite right, and then you find that they've had an accident or they're not well. And very often we women have that sixth sense. We all have the sixth sense, but a lot of women have that sixth sense that can tell when somebody they love is not okay, especially when it comes to your children. I poke mine the moment I feel that there is something wrong, and my son always says, "You're freaking uncanny, you're freaking me out. Why, yes, I had a bad day at work, why are you ringing me?" Because I know, and I think most of us do, as women and as mothers. So, but that is completely different from being a professional seer. And we know going forward in the evolution of humanity that very early on, when we had the first temples, and even before we had the first temples, I had the great honor to see Elysium in Greece, where they had the seers, where they had the temple with these women sitting over the fishes. But what was really getting to me, what I was really interested in, was that there was this massive rock, and it was sheer. It was like one of those boulders we have on Stonehenge. And the seer would climb up on there and would stand on the boulder, and she would declare what she had seen to the whole of the community. And she would do so for free. She would warn the community if there was a problem. She would talk about harvest. She would talk about blights. She would talk about illness in the children and the animals. And she would do this for free. It was from the heart. And that's how it usually was. It was only when people started to put a structure around it, and you see them very often in Greece, in Rome. You see these wonderful temples where the women were kept, and actually in Elysium, they one of the things that happened is that the mist that they were breathing in, that they had to sit over on a three-legged stool, it would actually poison them because it was sulfur, and yes, they would have visions, and yes, they would foretell the future, but they would also be very ill very soon. And I find that quite disturbing. And what would happen in the end is that the big Greek cities would have houses in the complex of the temple, and they would come and they would bring big, treasure kists full of jewelry and cloth, and they would demand to see the seer, and they would demand to ask a question about, whether a deal was going to be all right, whether that princess should marry that prince, or whether or not they should start a fight with somebody else. The issue was that in those days, they did not go directly to the women. It was a priest who would take the question to the seer, and the seer would give an answer, and then the priest would come out, and depending on, and in the end, it became very, very dodgy, to be quite honest, and this is how it all ended, is because it became political, and the priest would give answers that he knew the outcome would be a bigger donation to the temple. And in the end, the women were vilified, and they were pulled out of the temples, and they were killed because, apparently they had given the wrong prophecy, but actually they hadn't. It was the way that it was interpreted by the priest. And so it goes on. And then when we go towards the time of the witch hunts, people who foresaw, and this is something that I talk about, and people get a little bit cross with me. A lot of people died in the witch hunts, but most of them, I believe, were healers, were simple people that knew how to heal certain illnesses. I don't believe that they were seers or witches. And do you know why I don't believe that? Is that when a seer knows that danger comes, they usually skedaddle, they usually get out of town, they usually vanish before somebody comes for them. And what they did is warn the women and say to them, you mustn't stay here, your life is not safe. But the women had been living for generations in these villages, in these towns, and they couldn't believe until it was too late that somebody would betray them, and their own people would bring them before the assizes here in Britain. So it was becoming dangerous for women to open their mouth, and it stayed dangerous all the way up to 1945, when a lady, a medium at a séance, said to one of the women there that she had a message from her son. Now, her son had been in the Navy, and their boat had been torpedoed, but the British government hadn't given out that information yet. And so she was arrested under the Fraudulent Medium Act, which had replaced the Witch Act, and she was incarcerated. She was incarcerated, and it was only 1952 that we finally were allowed to, come out loud and proud, and actually be mediums. Now, I don't know how much you know about the history of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, but he lost his wife very early on, and for years he was looking for a medium that would help him get in connection with his wife. And unfortunately, every medium that he came to, he was able to spot how they were frauds. And he he discovered so many frauds in Britain that in the end he gave up, and he said there's not a single person in this country who is an actual medium, and maybe mediums don't really exist. And I find that a bit sad, because I do know that there are people that could have helped him, but they kept quiet because they were afraid to be arrested. And it was the snake oil salespeople that would be the ones that had the crystal ball that would introduce themselves as mediums. So coming forward to 1952, we finally were allowed to come out and say who we are and what we can do. Now, not everybody who is a seer comes forward to give messages. Not everybody who is a trance medium is ready to serve the greater good. People like Dion Fortune and Edgar Casey, people that I work with and whose teachings I work with, they died because they overstretched themselves, because they were trying to help too many people. Being a medium, being a seer is tiring. It's very, very tiring. So, for example, if I'm in the temple and I get bookings, I will not do more than 3 readings a day. I won't. But I do know people who do 5 and 6 and 7. But what I feel is that either I'm not as good as they are, or they are not resourcing themselves properly. And eventually what will happen is that they get sick and they get, unwell. So one of the things that we have to talk about is, why would we want to go out there and put ourselves out and say to people, I can do this, that, and the other? Now, I hate it when I go through Glastonbury and somebody comes running up behind me, tugging on my skirt and saying, I've just seen your aura and you have a being with you, and this and that and the other. One of the first rules of seeing is never, ever, ever say anything to anybody if it's unsolicited. You just don't go up to people and start blurting out. I see so many things, and some of them are quite, difficult things to see. And I don't say anything because the person hasn't asked me. If I see somebody getting run over by a car on Tuesday at 3 p.m., I might be, ready to tell them that. But on the whole, we don't talk to people about what we see unsolicited. There is a set of ethics that we as seers follow. And I think it's really important that whatever you do, especially when you can have such an impact on people's lives, is that you have a set of ethics. What can you say? What won't you say? There are seers or readers, card readers, they're all the same basically. We do the same thing, we use different tools. But there are seers who will say to you, I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm going to tell you what I see. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. And if I see death, I'll tell you that there is death. And I actually had a reader who told me straight up, I had a 9 of Swords. You see, the death card in tarot isn't actually death, it's transformation. But I had the 9 of Swords, and that usually indicates a very, very severe illness. 10 of Swords is not brilliant either. And she said to me, you are going to have a brush with death. You're going to have a brush with death within the next 12 months. You need to go and see a doctor. You need to have some tests done. There is something in you growing. And she was absolutely right. She was spot on right. I went to see my doctor, I had a blood test, and there was something not right. I owe that woman my life, and she became my teacher later on. And then there are people who will say, I'm not going to give people bad news. I'm not going to tell people, I see my glasses are really skewed. I'm not going to tell people what I see because I don't want to depress them. I don't want to start an argument. Now, as a reader, you can come across people who get extremely angry at you when the cards come out that they don't want to see. But what do? What do? If you see an image of somebody, if you see betrayal, if you hear a question and the answer that Goddess gives is not to their liking, the understanding has to be for these people that you are a vessel. This is why my name is Cerridwen's vessel these days. You're a vessel. You're a mouthpiece. The goddess comes through you, or God, or whatever who you're working with. Anyone from your team, and we'll talk about teams in a minute, will come through you, and they will speak whether you want them or not, especially Cerridwen. Cerridwen has a bit of a naughty streak at times. So we have to understand our relationship, first and foremost, with our consciousness. Now, Carl Gustav Jung put a structure around what we have known for millennia. And he talks about subconscious, and consciousness, and some of the places where we don't know anything that has to come up. Our forefathers knew that. Our forefathers knew that there was a place that they could not access in normal consciousness, in everyday, or we call it OSC, ordinary, circumstances. So no, that's not what it is. It'll get, but ordinary circumstances. We don't really, when we are in our ordinary frame of mind, in our everyday frame of mind, we very rarely become aware of something that might not be right. It is our sixth sense that tells us when we have to go deeper and we have to look. When we intuit something isn't quite right, or something is coming that we need to see. And so we find a place where we are at peace. We find a place where we are in silence, where we will not be disturbed. And the first thing we do is breathe. Now, most of you are familiar with the fact that there's certain different breaths that you can take so that you can actually become deeper into your own subconscious. Yeah. In shamanic ways, they use ayahuasca and green tobacco water and all sorts of weird and wonderful concoctions to get into that state of mind. In our tradition, we don't take any drugs, and we just breathe into a way that opens our consciousness, that opens our minds. And when I say to you, for example, right now, I'd like you to just close your eyes. And we always work in darkness. There is a way to do seership with your eyes open. But actually, right now, I just want you to close your eyes and breathe nice and deep. Just breathe in and really sit up straight so that your lungs can expand. Most of us are hunched up like this. Your lungs can't expand. You have to sit up straight and you breathe in until you fill your lungs. So breathing in and expanding your lungs, and then hold it for 2 heartbeats, and then you breathe out through your mouth if you can, until you're completely empty. And it takes practice to do that. So breathing in again, holding for 2 heartbeats, and then breathing out. And breathing in again, holding for 2 heartbeats, and breathing out. Really empty your lungs, get all the debris out, and continue to breathing like that. And what you're feeling, what you should begin to feel, is that you're getting a little bit dizzy, that there's a little bit of a dizziness, because you're breathing differently to your normal everyday shallow breathing. You're actually giving your body a lot more oxygen than you do usually. So as you're breathing in and breathing out, you fall behind the darkness. This is what we always say. So this is our particular tradition. Other people say other things. Everybody has their way. But you fall behind the darkness of your eyes. And I have to close my own eyes, otherwise I can't visualize. And first of all, you just see darkness. And you're still actually seeing with your outer eyes. You're still seeing with your outer eyes. You're seeing the back of your eyelids, and they are dark, but there are a few flashes of light because your eyelids are not completely dark. They are flesh, so a little bit of light still comes through. So you might see that. So the plan now is to keep breathing And if you can, go deeper backwards. Go towards the back of your head where your psychic gateway is. That is where your brainstem or your brain, your skull meets the top of your spine. And to the most people, especially in the shamanic traditions, you already know about this. It basically is your psychic gateway. And that's where we're trying to go. We're falling all the way through our body, through our head, into that darkness. And then what I'd like you to visualize, and this is the key, with the breathing comes the visualization. And that's what you need, is the pictures in front of your mind. Your inner eyes will see pictures. There is only very few people in the world that cannot see, cannot visualize. And when you close your eyes, all I ask you to do now is to visualize an apple. See an apple in your mind's eye. See an apple, whatever way you see that apple, just see that apple in your mind's eye. Everyday, ordinary apple. Just see it. Now, some of you will say, I don't see the apple. I can't see the apple. And that is because you're expecting to see it in front of your seeing eyes. The inner side is like a cinema, and it's really interesting because there is like a great dark canvas, and that is what you're looking at. And then all of a sudden, your memory of an apple will come forward and you'll see the apple appear. And that is your first step towards walking into that very deep subconscious that brings forward your seership ability. So once you see that apple in front of you, I now want you to see your hand, palm up, holding that apple. I just need you to see your hand, palm up, holding the apple. And you don't see anything else but your arm because you're in first person seeing. And so you're holding the apple and you're holding your hand out and you're just breathing. Just breathe. If you can't see it, keep breathing and then hold out your hand and see that apple slowly gliding onto the palm of your hand. And that's when you start the dynamic seeing. Dynamic seeing means that actions are happening to you in your mind's eye. And that is the exciting part of being a seer. Now you may open your eyes again and you may ask yourself, how easy was that? Well, to some people it's quite difficult, especially people with autism or with Asperger's or with ADHD. They find that very difficult. And I only found that out recently because when you can see easily, you don't expect anybody else to be different. So that was a good lesson for me. Before we ever start looking at the more hidden aspects of our consciousness, of the other realms, before we even step into the multidimensional, we have to first protect ourselves. So if you want to keep your eyes closed, I'm going to ask you to create a circle with me, a circle of protection that protects all of us that are sitting everywhere in the world. I want you to visualize the setting sun in the west. And I want you to say in your mind's eye, by the earth that is her body, and then turn a quarter circle. By the air that is her sweet breath, turn a quarter circle. By the fire that is her bright spirit, turn another quarter circle. and the waters of her sacred womb turn into the circle, I now declare this place to be made truly sacred. And then if you can visualize yourself lifting your arms, as above, so below, as within, so without, as the universe, so the soul. And these are the words to create a sacred circle. Whatever you're doing, magically, whatever you're trying to find, is you must be in a circle of protection. Because what you're doing when you're going into your seer, when you're starting to open your eyes and you're allowing messages to come through from your team, you must be protected. It's the first and foremost thing that people learn on the Cerridwen course, how to create a sphere around you from a circle and how to protect yourself. It's a dangerous word out there. If you believe that there's a dimension where there are dragons and fairies and goddess and angels and light beings and aliens and Arcturians and whatever else there is, you must also believe that there is another contingent that is not for the highest good, that is not looking to be at its highest good. So we have to protect our light that is open and shining from those people. And that's how Cerridwen helps us. So the next thing we would do, if you've still got your eyes closed, is we're going to call to Cerridwen and all our guides and helpers. So, Croeso Cerridwen, Dark Mother of us all, I call upon you now to be here with us, present in this circle, to bring your protection, your care, your love for us. Lady, come be with us. Hold us in your arms, safe and secure, not to be detected, but anything that is for the highest good. And we breathe your energy in. Hail and welcome, Cerridwen, Mother of us all. And now we call in the guides and helpers. Now, in your mind's eye, there is probably by now a being. You may not see her properly as yet. You may feel her presence in your field of awareness. If you don't work with Cerridwen every day, you may not necessarily see her, or you may do. It really depends. It is practice, practice, practice. I love the fact when people ask me, well, how do you do this? How do you have this connection? Every day, and I know a couple of priestesses of Cerridwen are here, every day do we talk to Goddess, to our Goddess. But who are our guides and helpers? Well, if we listen closely, if we watch closely, if we observe, they will become aware. They will become in our awareness. They will introduce themselves to us. And they're not always the same people. Some may stay with us forever. Some may be there once or twice. Some may stay for months and months and then vanish because their job is done. What they all do is give us information and learning, and they help us develop our spiritual, psycho-spiritual abilities because they want the vessels. They want the vessels to stand up now in these turbulent times. They say, come, come, we need you. Step up, look at us, see us, feel us, hear us. Pardon me. So how do we call them in if we don't know who they are? Welcome, guides and helpers of this personality, this incarnation. I call you forward now to help me, support me, be with me, speak with me. Let me hear you. I'm ready to receive the messages that you have for humanity, for the local community, for myself. Come forward. And as you're calling them in, and you do that for a while, and you may repeat yourself, it doesn't matter, but your intention, your focus, your concentration is on seeing who is out there for you. This is just a very quick explanation. It takes time. It takes an open heart. It takes devotion and worship. But eventually, if you really want to, they will come forward. And they may not be in human form. They may be in animal form. They may be in plant form. They may be in a completely different form. And often, especially with the dragons, they will come and they will suss you out. The dragons have been hurt badly by humanity. Badly. They have been vilified. They have been harmed. They have been hurt. And they are not easy to forgive. And they will only show themselves to the people they feel are really ready to learn, to hear them, to protect them. If you get into a relationship with a dragon, you are a very lucky person. You are a very honored person. Don't expect them to give you their names straight away. It may take months or years until you feel safe for them to give you their name, because they know what witches know. The moment you know my name, not my name that I was, baptized with, but my secret magical name, you have power over me. You can control me. You can make me do things I don't want to do. And we don't want that. So dragons will only introduce themselves to those people who are safe, who are peaceful, who are in stillness, and who feel safe. So come forward. Come forward, all of you who wish to hear us. I call forward the 13 grandmothers. I call forward all the mystical and mythical beings, all the multidimensional beings. Come forward. Let me see you. Let me feel you. Let me hear you. Now, the first thing you will do is probably feel a presence near you. And when you tune in, when you're sitting down and you're tuning in, you can feel that being around you, whether you're sitting on a bus or you're having dinner at McDonald's, God forbid, or you're having a cup of tea with a friend. Very often they sit behind you and they whisper in your ears. You feel them first, then you hear them, and then you may see them. But you don't necessarily have to. I can see some of them, especially when I have a client that I do a reading for, a soul reading for. I can see their helpers as clear as daylight. My guides, not always the same, because maybe I don't need to. There is a vastness to the multidimensional realms. We don't even know half, not even a bit of what is out there, who is out there. And Cerridwen protects us. She creates this funnel almost, and she will only allow those beings who are to our highest good, who are safe for us, to come through that funnel, to come and deliver their messages. And she will only do so when you are ready. Sometimes there is a dire need for a message to come through. And people try to force their way in for all the right reasons. And Cerridwen says, no, she's not ready for that yet. She's not ready to hear that or pass that forward. Because as you're receiving the message, very often you see things at the same time. So let me think about our light body. All around us, some people call it an auric field, all around us and within us is our light body. And we are a bright light. Most of us are a bright light. We try to be best of who we are. I'm coming from that premise. And we connect with a cosmic divine presence, more than one. And we come into our inner light. Inner light is, Dion Fortune created an organization that is called the Society of the Inner Light. And she hoped that one day enough people would take the training, take the development classes to be a seer, to be a medium, to be an oracle, because she knew how much we were needed. And people do. But unfortunately, very often, there is too many pretenders and not enough real seers. And so we can be overwhelmed by what we see. I have seen people's deaths in their past life, and I see that like it is a film in front of my eyes. And I don't like gory movies, so I don't like to see a woman with her throat cut. But when you are a seer and you have someone opposite you who's suffering from a past life connection that's not healthy for them, Goddess will show you where that past life connection is. And she will show you that you need to heal that needs healing. Eventually, when you finish with the session, she will also, before she leaves you, wipe your slate clean. And very often, when I've seen somebody a year or so ago, I don't remember them because Cerridwen said that was too much. You don't need to hold that. We're cleansing that. We're taking it away. Very often we see child abuse, sexual abuse. It's not pleasant. Being a seer is not a pleasant experience because very often you see the worst of humanity. But beyond that, we are helpers, we are healers, we want to help. We go beyond what we recognize as human life. We go beyond the veil. We open our hearts and arms to Goddess, and we are passionately connected with her. We are in love with Goddess. Well, I am. I don't know about you guys, but I certainly am. Because I know how good she is to us and how much she wants to be helpful to us. The problem is that the more connected we become with Goddess, the more we are in the light, the more attractive we become to people. We are like a light that's drawing the moths. And that's not always pleasant because people will try and push themselves into your life when they see that you've got something, you've got an ability that they want. We have to take ourselves into that ascended reality, into that higher reality, into that mystical world of the beyond. And people want to come with us. They want to see that. And you very often see me doing journeys to particular places, and I do them for free in the temple, and I beam them out because people love that. They love having a guided journey. They love going to the beyond. They can't do it by themselves, so we become their guides. And often what we call, and this is not a value judgment, the people who are not in connection with their psychic abilities are looking to us to help them and hear that message for them. So a few years ago, when we came to Avalon, a few years ago, Kathy Jones asked us Priestess of Avalon to step forward as oracles. Now there is a part of the training that is oracling. To me, it needs a lot of training. A lot of people, you can't just look at people and do the same thing for everybody. Yeah, we have to look at the individual. What abilities have they already? What are they looking at already? And we have to develop that. There's always development, yeah? And what she said, everybody was putting their hands up. Everybody was putting their, oh yeah, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do that. And then she said, I never forget this, but I will be the first person you see, and I will tell you whether you can oracle or not. It was funny. Suddenly there was only 4 of us. And I never forget the first time I oracled as the Lady of Avalon. It was astounding. Now, I usually embody and oracle for Cerridwen, who as goddess is a totally different feel, is a totally different presence to the Lady of Avalon. Cerridwen is feisty and fiery and out there and open and loving and connected. The Lady of Avalon is a very kind person, much kinder than myself. And I was asked questions the first time, and I must have had 100 ways of asking, how can I make money out of my spirituality? And there was, when you oracle in difference to embodiment, you're actually present. There is you as yourself, and then there is the goddess who answers through you. You're her mouthpiece. You are there, you're a set of arms, and you are her mouthpiece, and she just comes through you. And the amount of times that she had to say, well, it is about your spirituality. It's about your connection with me. It's about you. Before you ever want to teach others or guide others or become a coach or a mentor for others, you need to take me in your heart completely. And it was really interesting because while she was speaking, I could see what she sees. And I can't really talk about that so much because it's not fair. But let me talk about Cerridwen. She sees all the shadow, she sees all the light in every person, and she sees it with unconditional love. But she will tell it straight. So every now and then, when I've been in embodiment or oracling as, Cerridwen's vessel, people who know me personally have said to me, bloody hell, B, you were a bit harsh with me when you did the embodiment or you did the oracling. You were quite hard with me. You were saying things that were quite harsh. And I said to them, will you ever get it into your head? It's not me. It's Cerridwen speaking. And she comes from a place of complete and utter truth and honesty. And she'll tell you as it is. So we do something that is called mentating. It means that we are a bridge. We are a bridge between our mundane world and the multidimensional world, the realms of the dragons, the realms of the fairies, the realms of the spirit world, the realms of goddess. All of that is within us. And we step across and we become the bridge. And there is us at the back of the head and them at the front. And it really is that. And we bring the words through. We have a liminal consciousness. We are there, but we're not there. And it has something to do with the use of the right brain. There is a very clear neurological explanation of how oracling works. And it is being scientifically proven that people can do it. But I won't bore you with the details. You can look that up in YouTube. There is a mechanism in the process. First of all, you have to create the circle. Then you create your connection with Goddess and your helpers. So let's say they're all around you right now. And you're sitting there. Now there's a specific way of oracling. And what happens is that you sit higher than the questioner. You have to sit on an elevated chair. Now you will have seen some of the Dante Gabriel Rossetti pre-Raphaelite paintings of the seer sitting on top of a very high chair. Looks a bit like a bar stool. And you cannot be touched. In embodiment, you're at the same level as the person and you can be touched. and you can touch people. But as an oracle, you're not allowed to. And then they can ask you a question. But what happens is very often that the question they ask, the goddess says, that's not the question I'm going to answer, because it's not what you need to know right now. What you need to know right now is this. And then comes the truth of your connection with the divine. Because you can overwrite, if you want to, what goddess speaks. And you can let your ego rule and say, I'm not saying that, because she'll get angry. If I don't answer the question, she may complain about me. We've had that. We've had people come out of the embodiment, out of the oracling, and shout in the odds about how it is all a fraud, how it is all rubbish, because her question wasn't answered. It's not our fault. It's not the oracle's fault what the goddess says to that person. I guess what happened is that the goddess told her a truth she didn't want to hear. And that's why she got upset. And we have to work with that. And we have to understand that. And we certainly don't take that personally. We find our compassion for that person. So we sit there, and usually we wear a mask, beautiful mask, and a hooded cloak, and gloves, so that we don't look like our human self. We have to be inconspicuous as our human self. Each of the oracles must look the same to a certain degree. We all wear the same cloak, one cloak, we just swap over. We all wear the same mask. We all have our own gloves, because that would be different. But we do know to wear a purple dress, and we hide our shoes or socks or whatever. The illusion of goddess sitting there will give people more confidence in what we say to them. And we are in our inner world. And I want you to just for a moment close your eyes. I want you to see yourself. It's probably a bit difficult, but I want you to see yourself now, sitting on a chair, a high chair. I want you to see yourself in a cloak. It doesn't matter what color the cloak is. It really doesn't matter what material is. It has to be big enough to cover your whole body. And I need you to have your cloak hood up, your mask on, your gloves on, and nothing will be able to be seen of who you are. If you can visualize that, if you can visualize yourself as that person, maybe you can feel a little bit what it would be like to sit there and receive the questions of the seekers, and some of them are desperate seekers. Often goddess sees illness in a person, and all they want to know is, will I survive? Will my husband survive? Will my mother be okay? And it's heartbreaking, especially when the answer is no. So see yourself sitting there and ask yourself, could you be that person that will say what is coming through to the goddess? And it is tough. It is incredibly tough. So that is what we do when we oracle. What happens when we're finished is that somebody comes and they touch us and they say, sister, it is time to come out. And when you're oracling, you're not too deep in trance. When you're in embodiment, you usually are in a deep trance if you're a trance medium. But what happens is they take you out, they take the cloak off, they take the mask off, and as you are taking off these things, the goddess is receding, is coming away from you, waiting for the next person to sit down and be her vessel. And usually don't go any longer than 2 hours. Although time flies and you're not even realizing, 2 hours is maximum because your body will know. And this is what I said earlier. Although when we are in oracling mode, we don't realize the outside world or what we feel like or how much energy it actually takes us out of us. And if we are really connected well with Goddess, what happens is while she gets out of us, she sort of cleanses a few bits and gives us some strength and maybe tells you to eat more vegetables. But if the connection is not strong enough, then it could be that you're taking your own power and handing it to somebody else. I love being a seer. My favorite tool is cards. I do a lot of readings online. I do them in person in the Goddess Temple or in the Temple of Cerridwen here in Avalon. I love doing readings for people, especially when they're looking for answers to problems and they can't see for looking. Now you can be, I'm just looking for my cards, you can be a seer yourself. You can be a reader yourself. You can be a medium yourself. And very often what happens is that you can't see the wood before the trees. What I mean by that is that you are reading something for a situation or an answer that you are looking for, and 80% of the time your ego gets in the way. I'll be honest with you. Every reader always is looking for confirmation from another reader because we know how easy it is to slip into this into the trap of reading into the cards what you would like to see. So my cards that I have are wonderful moon cards. I also have a tarot. I didn't bring that with me because tarot is a little bit too advanced for our group today. So I would like to show you a card. And this is a card that Cerridwen has gifted all of us because it is something that we all need to hear. I asked her before, whilst I shuffled the cards and before I pulled the card, to give us a message about how we step up into the world at this moment of time. That is very interesting. It's very interesting, this moment of time. And her answer is this. I'm going to show it to you. And it says, step out of your comfort zone. Step out of your comfort zone. And it is a moon card. And it's the North Node. If you're an astrologist, you know what that will mean. I'm not quite going into that. Step out of your comfort zone. What does that mean? What does it mean to you? Immediately, when you hear those words, you will have something in mind that you are complacent about, that you may know already, but you're not 100% active. How do we step out of our comfort zone? Well, very often, what we need to do is open our mouth and speak the truth. But that is a dangerous undertaking these days, almost more dangerous than seership. These days, if you open your mouth, people will come for you. We are once again in an atmosphere of fear in the world, especially, and sorry, darlings, but in the Americas. You know, a lot of people have come off Facebook because they don't want to be seen anymore. And I understand that. Being out there loud and proud and giving your opinion will certainly take you out of your comfort zone. But today I was really touched by something I saw, something that gave me hope. You're all familiar with Richard Gere. You're all familiar perhaps with the fact that he's a Buddhist, that he's a very spiritual man, that he's a very, very peaceful man who always talks about kindness, who always talks about love, who always talks about how we can make this world a better place. And he actually said something that has been my rebel yell for months, even probably a year. He was accepting his lifetime award somewhere on television with lots of people in front of him and lots of people watching. And he was talking about kindness and about love and about compassion, and everybody expected that speech. And then he said, and we live in a world where we here in America have a president who is a bully and a thug. And everything stopped. People didn't know what to do. There's some of them clapped politely, some of them, just gasped, I guess, because that was so out of character for that man. But he has been really outspoken. He has done lots of interviews. He's been really outspoken about how dangerous he thinks that man is. Now, I honor what he's done. He certainly came out of his comfort zone because that was unexpected. And he's getting some flack for it. X is in uproar. Who cares? Who cares? But one of the things that I will say is that if I had an opportunity to speak to him, I would say to him, Goddess says, keep it simple, sweetheart. This is a changeover. It's a transformation. Goddess has shown lots of us that this is not something that we need to be worried about. Yes, there is pain, but like with every birth, there is pain. With every rebirth, there is pain. And what's happening is that we're going into this realm that is so surreal, that people who are, in the know, so to speak, are saying, this is going to burn itself out. This is going to burn itself out. And my gift to you tonight, if I may, is a little meditation that will make you feel, as we're going towards a full moon in Libra on Saturday night at 1:22 a.m. in England, where we're talking about justice and balance. I would like to give you a little meditation. So if I ask you to close your eyes again and really feel your body, and especially if you're female, I want you to wiggle your sacral. I want you to be really aware of your sacral space. Feel that yoni. If it's like mine, it wobbles a bit. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your spine straighten. Feel your head rise. Hold out your hands, palms up, so that you may receive. And take a deep breath in. Center yourself. Breathe in deep and out. Exactly what we did earlier. It is the go-to thing. Breathing in as deep as you can, holding for a couple of heartbeats and breathing out. And breathe out that tension. Breathe in the love of the goddess. And breathe out the tension you're holding in your body. And really speak those words. I'm breathing in the love of the goddess. And I'm breathing out the tension that is in me. I'm breathing in the love of the goddess. I'm breathing out the anxiety I'm holding. I'm breathing in the love of the goddess. I'm filling myself with her light. And I'm breathing out all the fear that people try to put in me. And really breathe loudly if you want. And as you've done that, and as you've said the affirmations, I want you to see yourself sitting cross-legged. And it has to be cross-legged so that your yoni is as wide open as it can be, receiving the energy of Mother Earth. Receiving the energy of Mother Earth, the new spring green, beautiful, blossoming energy. Breathe it in, breathe it into your yoni space, breathe it through your solar plexus, breathe it into your heart, breathe it up to your upper heart, and breathe it up into your throat, and into your radiant brow, and into your crown, and all the way out again, and let it fall back down to Mother Earth. And breathe in more of that energy, so that in a way you become like a waterfall of green energy. So breathing in, pulling that energy right up into your body, all the way up, seeing it cascading out of your head and back down into Mother Earth, where it's being cleansed and cleared and coming back up into you. There is a continuous flow of that beautiful spring energy, breathing in and breathing out. And then I want you to look out through the veil of that green, that beautiful energy. And all around you is like a hurricane, like one of those twisters. And it pulls up everything in its pathway, and it rips away structures, and it takes away automobiles, and it might even take away animals, people. Everybody's ripped up and tossed around and surrounding you. And you sit in that beautiful green energy, in that still place, observing, being compassionate, but not allowing the whirlwind to come near you. And now see a figure in whatever way they are. I'm not mandating who is there for you. This is one of your guides and helpers. This is one of your people, in whatever form they've come to you. And you see them starting to move their arm up and down. And what they're doing is they're creating a spiral of golden light all around you. As they're walking, the spiral begins to look like, a slinky of sorts out of golden light. And they're moving around you very slowly, and maybe you can hear them whisper words of magic. Maybe you can hear them hum words of magic. But they're going all around you, and they're speaking or singing the spell song for you to be protected, to be at peace, to be in beauty. And the little, well, it's not little, it's a big golden slinky is becoming stronger and stronger the closer it gets to connecting with itself. And there's a bright golden light around you, as well as that green light now. And everything is in movement, and everything is in flow, and everything is for your protection. And when you feel comfortable with that image in front of your face, in front of your inner eyes, in your inner side, I want you to see if you can send beams of that green gold light into the world, into the whirlwind, into that hurricane. See if you can beam out. Don't lose protection for yourself. Make sure you're protected enough, and only when you feel that you have abundance, surplus, beam, one of those gold green beams, ray into a hurricane, and see it slow down. See it slow down. It's not going to stop just yet, but it's slowing down. It's losing the darkness, the grey, the black. And here and there, where your beam hit that hurricane, you can see that there's a bit more light. You can see that a hole, a gape is coming, and that things are settling. This is an exercise that you can do for yourself to resource yourself. And it's also an exercise that if you have surplus and abundance and a deep connection with your divine and all the people that are there for you, you will be able to send that out into that whirlwind, into that hurricane, into that destructive force that is surrounding you at the moment. There's no judgment of where it comes from, and we don't care who has created it. That is not our job to know. What she's asking us is to do something about it, if we feel able. But don't go in there like a hero. Don't go in there giving your power, giving your protection to that. Because what it will do is when you're weakened, it will rip you out of that place of stillness, of sacredness, of being connected with the great divine mother. So ask yourself, how do I feel right now as I'm seeing this, as I'm seeing myself being protected by the being that has come forward to work with me? If you want to, and if you can call to that being now that they're finished with their work. It may be standing off to one side. I don't know who it is. It is your teammate. But you may be able to call to them, say hello, thank them for what they have created for you. Thank them for their service to you and the world. Thank them for giving you a breath of silence, a breath of peace, a moment of connection. They may show you their face if they have one. They may connect with you. Just feel, call to them. Come to me. Let me see you. I invite you into my space. Thank you for creating this for me. Thank you for your protection. Thank you for your service. You can take your time doing that. It is a very important thing to do when you are working with the people of the other realms. It's a very important thing to do. So when you're ready, when you've had the connection and you're ready, the sun has come down and I need to switch the lights on. When you're ready, come back to me, slowly, surely, come back to me, feel back into your body, and really do feel in your body. Do you feel any more nurtured? Do you feel the connection? Do you feel the love that is yours to ask for? I think it is time for you to ask me some questions. I'm going to remove the pin. And hello, dears. I would like you to if you wish, to ask me if there is anything that you would like to know, to ask me. Yes, ask me. Just spit it out. Nobody has any questions. Come on, Donna. I can see on your face you want to ask something. Don't feel daft. Anyway.
There's just so much. I've
Yes.
just been getting so much the last, probably the last week. I mean, I've talked to you before about being blocked and not being able to access my intuition and all of that stuff. And I am getting so much. When you did this meditation, I got a sigil and I just drew it. And I wasn't writing now. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. I'm writing poems, but they're a protest, I guess, but not mean, just expression. So
I think it's really important when you see something to speak about it, to get the message out. And poetry is actually one of the ways that we are most closely getting in connection with our deep subconscious. Poetry is actually something, the lyrical language takes us out of our normal everyday brain. And this is why so often when we do, if you remember the calling in, we used to do that in rhyming couplets because it would take us out of our mundane mindset into a sacred mindset. And I think poetry, you know, when you think of Maya Angelou, I was watching one of the videos of her Woman Phenomenally, and just that poem is just so beautiful and so sharp. It's just when she talks about her hips and wiggling and all this, I just think it is so beautiful and inspirational and uplifting. And right now, as seers, it is actually partially our job to channel these things, to make people hear and make people see. And I will say that we had no idea in the UK about the things that were going on in the United States, about the protests, because, to be quite honest, our BBC didn't show it until it was right at the end, where they couldn't hide it anymore. They couldn't hide it anymore, so they finally came out and said, "Yeah, there's some stuff going on in the States." What? The people are on the street, for heaven's sake.
well, it
And this
wasn't
is,
shown here. A lot of things were not. There was a big protest in Washington, D.C. with the veterans, and
yeah.
there was no coverage at all, absolutely none. The only coverage was people with their cell phones. That was it.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it's interesting. Today, once again, I wasn't able to put this on the Cerridwen group because for some reason, Facebook has blocked me doing live streams on the Cerridwen group. I don't know how they managed that. I don't know why, but it just doesn't work. And that's okay because we'll just go via my personal page. But it is one of the things, like I said, one of the things about seers is, and when poems come to you, it is actually God is speaking to you, your guides and helpers speaking to you, and giving you those words and giving you those images. It is really important that you write them down, you share them with whomever you wish to share them, because they're messages. Now, as you know, as you remember, when we did the training, part of our oracling was the voice of the goddess. And the voice of the goddess basically is three priestesses sitting back to back, and they're asked the same question. And each of them speaks. And what happens then, it's recorded and it's transcribed as a message from the goddess for all of us. And the voice of the goddess last time we did it very much foreshadowed the chaos and the drama that America would get into. And that was way before the Orange Man was put into power again. So so it really was, and this is why I knew he was going to win. He had to win. There is a purpose in that. And if you remember that, if you remember that he is a vehicle, that that vehicle will bring us to a place where something else can come to instead, that the
Well,
structures that
I
are
got
all
the message that he's the destroyer, but he will not be the rebuilder.
oh, for
It's not
sure.
going to be rebuilt the way he wants. He's just, like brought everything down.
Yeah. And you can see
So,
that what he's doing this week and last week, the way he brought down what was happening. And I mean, people, please don't think that I'm taking joy in that. But I also am not afraid of it. I know Cerridwen tells us we're going to be all right. We're going to be less, you know, we're going to have less. But then in one of my transmissions today, I said, do you remember the time, and you might do, Donna, because we're a similar age, where we used to go on picnics with spam sandwiches and a flask of something? Did you ever do that with your parents?
um, yeah, not spam.
Yeah.
Spam. My dad was in the Pacific realm and fought in World War II in the Pacific realm. And they had a lot of spam, so no, we didn't have spam, but we did do picnics. But I grew up in the southern part of the states, and so picnics were kind of extravagant. But they were always you always had a tablecloth, you always had napkins, you didn't have paper plates. My grandmother had a fit, you took your china, took your silverware.
Yeah.
So,
But it is the freedom of going somewhere and not going into a restaurant. I mean, you go to even McDonald's these days with the kids and it's like 20, 30 pounds. People won't be able to afford that. They will have to think about it. But then they couldn't afford it in the 80s either. So how much do we really need is what she says. How much do we really need? How can we reduce our outgoings? How can we reduce and come back to a life that is normal? Because at the moment, the last 30 years, we have been extravagant. We have been rapacious. We have been consumption conscious because people made us so. That I knew in the 90s that there was no way that we were going to be expanding infinitely. There was a point where there's no more expansion and we have to come back. There's only so far you can pull an elastic. Eventually, you'll have to let go and he'll come back into his own form. And there's nothing wrong with that. As long as we're together with our family, our loved ones, as long as we see each other and we connect with each other it's okay not to be extravagant. So, I mean, maybe some of you are not extravagant. I apologize if that's offensive, but I certainly know that I spend money on things I don't need. And I spend it because I like shiny things. So for
we have
me,
a new app on Facebook. It's called Buy Nothing In, and then you type in the name of your city, and then people just put things up there to give away that they don't need anymore, whatever. And sometimes there's like furniture that's in good shape, and it's like it's really nice that they're not selling it, they're giving it away.
yeah.
And that's happening more and more, and I see more and more people giving things away.
Yeah, especially to the young people who have nothing, who are starting a life together. We all had second hand furniture. And I tell you what, my first pram for my grandson was probably 10 years old. There was probably 15 babies in that pram. But it was a pram and it was perfect. And it cost me 75 marks in those days. And so now we buy a new pram for my grandchildren and they're 900 and £1,000. They are humongous things and they cost a fortune. And this is what we're saying. Cerridwen is saying, keep it simple, sweetheart. Not every time does everything have to be bought new. The only thing I will not compromise on is shoes for the babies, because you don't, pardon me. Anyway,
or underwear.
pardon, underwear, yes, darling. You know, if you still wear any underwear, so to speak.
Sorry,
I
I
do
do.
apologize. Anyway, so one of the things that I wanted to do for you before I go is very quickly, I wanted to ask you to help me with something. And this is a spell candle, and it's purple for peace, as far as I'm concerned. And tomorrow we start a big unity event in Glastonbury for 7 days. And people come forward and they bring their candles. So, what I'd like to do, if I may, is light my candle and put
I've
it
got to get to my charger.
towards you. And I'd like you all to speak a blessing into it. So if I start with you, Donna, if you would like to speak a blessing of peace, and I will put it with our candle tomorrow. So please, if you have time.
Um, May you have so much compassion that your heart cracks wide open.
Thank you, darling. And there's a lady there, sorry, I don't know your name. Kath. Kath, would you like to speak a blessing into the candle for unity?
I send peace and unity out into the world. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Cornelia, would you like to speak a blessing? And you can do it in German or English.
In English, I'm grateful for the power of Cerridwen, and I send this power to all people of this world to 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 brauchen to need help for anything. All people made be happy and and
Thank you, darling.
happy. Yes.
Thank you, darling. Thank you, darling. And then we've got Simona. Simona, if you can hear us, would you like to speak a blessing into our candle?
Sure. May the love of the goddess flow within, throughout, above and below, and around each and every one of us.
Thank you, darling. And I've got somebody called, I'm so sorry, Drahus? Is there somebody there? Or a lady called Vivian? Vivian, can you hear us? No, don't think so. Okay. So what's really fascinating is through the camera, the candle is actually quite small, and I was going to ask you if you could see something in it. Sorry, no microphone. Well, maybe you could write your blessings and a blessing, and I will read it out if that's okay with you. But yeah, what I see is a very straight up candle, but as I put it to the camera, it's looking like a light bulb. It's getting huge. And can you see the aura around it? And it's all on the left-hand side. So yeah, I'm just wondering. Hello, dear. Hello, Vivian. Would you like to speak a blessing for us into the candle?
Oh. My English is not so good, but I
Say it in
try.
whatever language you want.
Okay, I try a few words in English. I wish this candle will bring light to the lives where it is needed. Blessed be.
Blessed be. And whereabouts are you, Vivian?
Vivian.
Whereabouts are you, love? Hello? Are you, where are you speaking from? If I may ask. If not, say no. No? Okay. So, yeah, it is like a huge globe this light, which is not what it looks like from here. And I love that. I love the fact that it looks like a balloon. Reminds me of 99 Luftballons. Anybody remember that song? You know, it's very poignant right now, actually. It really is. So thank you, lady, for your presence here. And thank you for these beautiful people. And thank you for these blessings. And we really appreciate all of the energy that's come into this candle. And it will be lighting the candle in the temple tomorrow and for the Unity event opening. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
So thank you so much for everybody to be here. There was so much more I was going to talk to you about, but these taster sessions, they're so quickly over. But I don't want to exhaust you either. I do want to show you something though. If there is not peace soon, now this is a new kind of candle. It's called a blackthorn candle, and it's got blackthorn oil in it, and it is beeswax, and it's black beeswax. It's a huge candle. And I've already decided on the full moon, if there's any more trouble, this is going to get lit and somebody's going to get in trouble. Old witch that I am. So, yeah, thank you for being here. I really love the fact that you're all here. Thank you for listening. This is my passion. This is my love. For those of you who haven't done the course yet, and I do appreciate all my sisters being here, please check out cerridwen.co.uk to see what we do. There's going to be a lot of things going on next year. And I would love for you all, thank you, darling, and I hope that you all find the beauty in what is happening all around us right now. Spring is here, sun is shining, everybody's okay. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blessed be. Take care, darlings, and thank you for coming. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, darlings. Bye-bye.